In today's lesson, we're talking about building community around your business, even if you haven't started yet. Hey, welcome back to Millionaire University. Class is about to start. I'm Erik Fisher. We're going to hear from Katie Fawkes, the Director of Marketing at Ecamm. We're going to discover how Katie and the Ecamm team fashioned the Ecamm fam, their community, and made it a cornerstone of their business model. We talk about what platforms they're using for community, how they started, how they maintain it, especially through intentional engagement, how they decided which platforms to use. We talk about their creator camp, something they just did at the end of last year in 2023, a camp-themed event for their users, and why and how they did it and what the impact of it was. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around to the end of the episode to hear the story about it. It's amazing. So get pumped, focus up, and get ready to learn because class is in session. I am super excited this week to bring you a conversation with Katie Fawkes. Katie, welcome to Millionaire University.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited. One, we got to see each other recently in person at PodFest 2024 in Orlando, Florida, a great event for podcasters. And Ecamm was there, fully representing, doing lots of different things. I'd love for you to jump in. Business makers, business owners, business builders are people who wear all the hats. And in a lot of ways, that's what you do with Ecamm. Let's talk a little bit about what Ecamm is. I've known about Ecamm for a very long time and what your role is there and how that all came to be.
Oh my goodness. Well, if you haven't heard about Ecamm, it is a live streaming and video production software studio built for Mac. So it lets you create just about anything you can think of in the world of video. So that includes live streams and multi-streams and video recordings in vertical and wide all the way up to 4K. And then we also have what's called a virtual camera. So if you're the kind of person who does meetings and presentations and webinars and workshops in Zoom and Teams and Meet, all those other wonderful video conferencing softwares, you can actually bring a lot of the features and functionality of Ecamm into those software. So cool things like sharing graphics and lower thirds and countdown timers and comments and everything in between. So it's a fun way to just add a lot of variation and interest and engagement tools into your meetings and conferences.
Yeah, live video, I think kind of all gotten used to it, and we kind of all got used to it. It comes in waves. We used to hear, it's the wave, it's the year of video, it's the year of live video, and then it's 2 or 3 years later, and we hear it all over again. So I think business owners have gotten to the point where they maybe think, I either have to do it or, it's already been done. And let's talk about your role at Ecamm a little bit here. What's your role and how did that come to be?
So my official title, which is kind of funny because we're such a small company, but my official title is the Director of Marketing. So I head up a small marketing team. And as you said before, I wear a ton of different hats. So I do everything from content creation and working with influencers to create all kinds of different videos and video series for our own channels and otherwise, to email and social media and content repurposing and community marketing and everything in between. So all aspects of marketing.
And you joined Ecamm. I mean, you weren't like in the thick, you weren't like an Ecamm user, but it was like a kind of funny story how it came about.
I wasn't. I come from a copywriting and writing background. I'm originally an English literature major. So shout out to all my geeky, book-loving writing friends. I was definitely the person who the concept of being on camera at all was absolutely horrifying. Still feels really surreal that now it's become such a central part of my day-to-day. And now it's just so normal to sit down and turn on the camera and connect and have these conversations with people all over the world. But I mean, even 4 or 5 years ago, I was the person who, the second that any kind of video camera came up near me, I would just freeze and go into full panic mode and just be stuttering over my words and worried about that I didn't look good or sound good or I was going to say something stupid. So if that's you, or if you've been thinking about how do I kind of overcome some of that, it definitely is possible. And it's been a really fun learning process over the last 5 years, I guess it's been now.
I think one of the things that I've always felt was just inherently there, and in some ways inherent is close to the word inherit, as you stepped into the marketing role, Ecamm already had a community, but then you stepped in and started to hone in on what that community would come to be and be known as these days, the Ecamm fam. And you didn't coin that term, somebody else did, but that's one of the beauties of it is you ran with that and kept going with that. Let's talk a little bit about Ecamm has a great community around it. Why is community essential for businesses to have?
Oh my gosh, it absolutely does. And as you said, it wasn't started by me. Our co-founders, who are also our developers, had started this Facebook group, I think like right as the software was coming out, namely because, again, it started as a Facebook live streaming software. So I think it initially was like a space to be able to do testing and get customers to be able to ask questions and kind of have a feedback loop, right? And so when I first started, it was just a place where I could see what our customers were doing with the software and what kinds of questions had come up. And the more that I spent time there, the more it just became a great place to practice and test for myself. And the more I could see that our customers needed that too. Like live streaming is inherently scary. Like no one wants to, push that live button and look dumb or feel like they don't know what they're doing. And so it almost requires this safe space. And so the more that I started learning and growing, the more that it just, the community kind of rallied around me and rallied around each other and started, offering suggestions. And, we are always talking about like recommendations for gear. And it just kind of became this place where people felt like they could express themselves and try and practice. And, no one was going to make fun of them. No one was going to not understand what they were doing. It was just this really wonderful place that sprung up. And I think that's so hugely important to businesses because it's a direct link with your customers. So, not only am I like hearing the negative, the critique, or like things when things go wrong, but I'm seeing what happens when things go really right with our software, like what people are creating, what the trends are, what they're excited and interested about. And that feeds our marketing, that feeds our roadmap and where the app goes. So I just think it's just become a really important part of any business model is just really understanding who your customer is and what they want and what their expectations are from you as a business.
Yeah, it's a really powerful thing. You said a few different words there. Safe space really sticks out. And that reminds me of when early days of streaming, mutual friend of Ecamm and of each of us, Jeff C. and I, he had created a Facebook group, a private Facebook group where it was just him and then just me and a few other different people that he would then say, hey, we'll go in there, we'll go live into there instead of out to the real world, right?
Yeah.
And we're practicing in public, but it's still private. So we can be public and practice and see like it's like being on the stage and doing a dry run through and all that kind of stuff. And it's a really cool concept to have that, not just in general. You can see why practicing in public is helpful, but this is in a way practicing in public in private public, but with other people that are like-minded, that are using the same tools, that are celebrating wins and not just submitting like, hey, feature request here, but like, hey, this worked really well for me. I just went live and they share it in there. In other words, they share in their wins and it helps them with camaraderie and community.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just been really fun to see. You have photos of these incredible studios that, that people have built both in their homes or for clients. There's videos of, our customers come from every conceivable industry and background. So you have like, church services or like, photos of customers who met in our community who now have like their own smaller like mentorship groups with other Ecamm fam that they've met and like photos of them meeting in real life, or when we go to an event, like photos of people who are typically just like quote unquote internet friends come together and have gotten to experience that friendship and that relationship in real life. So it's really neat. And the tools that we have these days and the ways that we can connect with each other and learn from each other. We're in a really amazing time from that perspective. Anyone can learn how to do this, and anyone can learn how to do this in a really, I can't think of a better word than safe way, but like a really like encouraging, wonderful, welcoming atmosphere. There's lots of opportunities out there for sure.
It feels like a living out of Seth Godin's really prominent book from more than a decade ago now, but it's called Tribe. And that it's all about that. It's all about this mutual, you find your group, they find you, they find each other. It's kind of that triangle. It's the Triforce. I'm a gamer nerd, so I have to say that. But it's the Triforce of community. It's that you've got you and them, and then they've got each other, and you're kind of then sometimes you just sit back and you facilitated it, and you set the table. You created the party space, in other words, a safe party space, and you sit back and watch the magic happen. What are your thoughts on that? But then also let's dive into what happens when there's not some magic. What when it starts to, there's issues, it goes downhill. Like, in other words, okay, we have to have some rules for the party even.
Yeah. So, oh gosh, I feel like it was maybe it was 4 years ago, pretty early on too. So I've been with the company for about 5 years. It was pretty early on where it became really obvious that like just me by myself spending all of the time in our Facebook group was not going to be the best use of my time, right? Like it was just me, especially as like the pandemic hit and everyone was jumping onto video. I was spending a lot of hours. Like it felt like sometimes I like couldn't even like get to grab, a glass of water without there being messages coming in and watching stuff. So it became pretty obvious that I needed a team. I needed some help there. And because we're so community focused, I started hearing from and seeing some members within the community who were already going above and beyond. They were already acting as though they were moderators, or they worked with or very closely with or for Ecamm in many ways. They were answering questions, they were helping people, they were jumping on and doing like, Q&A live streams into the group. They were just really going above and beyond. And so we just started like promoting those people to
You're vetting
moderators.
Them, essentially. They vetted themselves in front of you by being helpful.
Yep. Yeah. So they were so initially we partnered with one of our customers named Frank. And Frank, I think, was our original moderator. Now we have, I want to say like 20 or so moderators that exist within our Facebook group. We also have a Discord server now. And then they also moderate all of our live streams as well. So they kind of rotate off as time allows. And they're from all over the world. So it makes it really nice that I feel like there's always a backup. I'm on East Coast time. So like while I'm sleeping, as you said, if something went like horribly wrong, I know we have people who are keeping an eye on things and it's a normal time of day for them to be checking in on stuff. And, we've been lucky. We haven't had too many things go horribly wrong. I mean, certainly things come up from here to there. We have a pretty clear set of rules in our community, and we're constantly just reminding people if they kind of come close to those rules and being sensitive to allow those conversations to happen without it getting too political or religious or people arguing back and forth over things that are not going to be helpful to the larger community. We try to take those offline and have those conversations with the individuals. But yeah, I'm lucky in that these days our moderators are just so good at it that often they're bringing recommendations back to us on like, oh, we should probably tweak this rule or add this extra filter into the group so that the space stays this really inclusive, really supportive place for everyone. And that's hard. I mean, it's hard to keep everyone happy. It's a really, as I said, like people from all ages, all backgrounds, all part of the world. So it, certainly it has the potential for things to go wrong if you don't have a good support system and a really good structure for what's allowed and what's not allowed.
I think it's interesting that those people, again, I said it earlier, they kind of self-vetted themselves by showing their concern, their care is probably a better word to put it. And that they stepped in and they would help and they would seek out people who are, they would look and say, you know what, I'm not just going to wait for people to ask for help. I'm going to announce that I'm here. Throw your questions out. I will help you. Yep. I will tell you, oh, I found this. I tweaked this. Oh, I was struggling with that same thing. And then I found out that this is the way to work around it, or different things like that. And I love that. But even beyond loving that aspect of it, it's that you then foster and encourage those people, those moderators, and allow them to have ownership in a way.
Yeah.
These aren't like paid moderator positions. These are community people who just, they care enough about your business of Ecamm and what you're doing and how you're doing it, and those that are using it like they are to step in and be part of it.
Yeah. Honestly, no matter how much time I spend live streaming or podcasting or doing interviews like this, I'm never going to understand the software as well as people who have been using it from like the absolute beginning and who are using it in instances that I'll never have the opportunity to use it. Like I don't run a live stream for my church. I don't, I'm not doing huge on location events, for example. So there's lots of aspects to it that I'm not going to understand as well. So having all those different voices there to lend support and help when something goes wrong is super helpful. I'm also, no matter, how much money we spend, we're never going to have all of the different gear, right? Like all the different microphones, all the different cameras out there that people are using. And so again, it's kind of this idea of like crowdsourcing, right? Like who here has a Shure, MV7 microphone and can answer this question or test this thing out, or who uses PTZ cameras, or who, like, being able to crowdsource those answers and be able to get help really quickly is hugely important, especially to newer people who are trying to test everything out. They're trying to make buying decisions. That information is really valuable.
I think one of the other cool things, and this is unique to Ecamm, although not entirely unique just to Ecamm, it's definitely a dimension. It's a Venn diagram circle, let's put it that way, that kind of forms over it, is that because Ecamm is a visual tool by nature, it's a camera tool, it's a presentation tool, it's a podcasting tool, a video podcasting tool, also an audio podcasting tool, but it's got all these different components. But because it's visual in nature, that also plays into the community aspect of it. I know you've heard a million different people say the spiel about how video makes you feel more personal and all that kind of stuff, but I can't help but think, it plays into why part of why the community is so strong for you.
Yeah, I mean, look, it feels like those people, right? Like, if you think about, and podcasting, audio podcasting does this a little bit as well, but you feel like if you were spending time in a space with someone, whether that's you're watching a regular YouTube show or you're listening to a podcast, after so many weeks, like, you feel like that person. And with video, you can see them. So, there have been moments, even at Podfest that we just attended, where, I met probably 5 or 6 people who have been in the community for a really long time. I've never met them in person. It didn't at all feel that way because we've spent time where either like I've been on camera and they've been in the live chat, or vice versa, or we've, answered questions back and forth with each other in the space. We've seen, one another's avatars and photos in the community play, and we've interacted back and forth on social media or email. So it just really feels like these are people, there's a level of trust there, right? Especially with live video, because you're welcoming someone into your space. Anything could happen. In fact, when weird things happen, it almost makes it feel more real and more authentic, right? Like when someone's cat walks across their keyboard, or like a kid comes running in. Like now it's like people know, they know that I have kids. They know that I have, a dog and chickens and whatever, because I've allowed them into those spaces through video, and it continues to build that relationship and build it in a way that feels very real and raw and honest, which I think is really hard to pull off in a lot of other mediums. Like a highly produced video is great in a lot of ways, but I don't think that it builds that same level of connection that live streaming or video podcasting or having a regular video show does. I think you're putting yourself out there in a really different way.
Yeah, the polished video, the polished anything when it comes to content, it can come across great. It can come across, I don't want to say fake. I want to say it's still authentic, but what it does is it comes across as professional, which is still something you want to put out there. But at the same time, this kind of thing where you're showing up for your community and your community showing up for each other in a way that's visual, it's got an authenticity to it that can really help drive that community connection deeper. You mentioned earlier, the community started with the Facebook group, but you also mentioned Discord. So talk a little bit about that, because I think some people would say, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But of course, I guess Facebook has broken many different times over the past
let's be real.
years
Facebook
here.
is often broke. Yeah. The reality is that building a community is hard and takes a lot of time. And, in many cases, especially on Facebook, we don't own that space. And at any point, Facebook could decide, hey, we're not going to do Facebook groups anymore. Or, hey, like they could close our account. They could decide, anything could happen and we could lose the connection with those people. So, we're big believers that we need multiple ways to communicate with our audience, ideally in ways that our audience wants to hear from us, right? So we have an email list, we have social accounts, we have our Facebook group, but we also have Discord, because at the end of the day, some people are not Facebook people and they don't want to be on Facebook. And so we had people saying like, hey, what if we don't have a Facebook account? Like, does that mean we can't be part of your community? or we run the risk of something happening to Facebook, which would be really bad, less bad for us because we would email all of our community members and tell them, hey, something's happened to Facebook, jump on over into Discord. We'll help you get up and running and we'll continue on there. So it's a little bit of a safety net, and it's a little bit of another option for people who just may not like a particular platform. I also think that Discord it's taken me a while to learn. I'm definitely that becoming quickly that old person that's one more thing to learn. But Discord is much easier to curate content and to find what you're looking for. So Discord allows you to create these kind of subspaces and niche spaces. So, in our Discord, we have we have a podcasting space, we have a streaming space, we have one for, church leaders, we have one for Spanish speakers. So it almost gives us more flexibility and allows us to give ownership over to more of our community members to say oh, hey, you want to start a German speaking subgroup? Great. We'll build that in Discord and you can have those conversations over there. And Discord also has the ability to have these audio and video channels as well. So it's much easier to have these kinds of everyone jump on and we can all work together on something, or, kind of a co-working sort of space, or, have a conversation back and forth with each other without us needing to give over our entire Facebook page, right? Sometimes it's I don't know if I want this person I just met to see all of my chicken photos right on Facebook. Maybe I just want to connect with them professionally. So Discord allows for us to be able to talk individually and all together, I think, in a way that still provides some level of privacy and control over what you're seeing, how much you're seeing, who you're talking to, and how much you're allowing them to see into your space.
For some people, they are not familiar with what Discord is. I would say it's probably it's slightly Slack-ish, but I wouldn't say it's just. I think it's actually better than Slack in a lot of ways.
It is. It's better than Slack in a lot of ways. It comes from a gaming background, and so it does have a little bit more of a a little bit less friendly looking, I guess, for lack of a better word, than a Facebook or than a Slack. But again, it just gives you a lot more control. And once you start playing with it, it's actually not as complicated as it looks. I think that they could do a little bit more on the user experience to make it seem a little easier than it is. It's one of those tools that you're oh, it feels really hard. I don't think I could jump into this. And then you start playing with it and you're oh, it actually has all the features that I would expect it to. And it's not as hard as it seems.
I've been a part of a few different ones. And I got to say, I like the idea of, I've had it on my phone as well as my desktop to be able to kind of get messages. And I love that you can pick and choose which, I don't think they're called rooms, but instances or whatever they're called. Effectively, they are like rooms. It's having the Discord is kind of like having this makeshift instance of your own conference center. And then you can send people off to all these different rooms or one big community place. That's the expo hall, I guess.
Yeah. And you can choose access too. So, we run an in-person event every single year as well as a virtual event. So, we can lock off those spaces. So it's only people that are attending that event, only those people get access to that space. So it's not bothering everyone else where it's why are they endlessly talking about this event that I'm not at? And it's also, again, kind of creating a little bit more privacy for those people who might be, practicing or asking really specific questions that relate directly to that content or to that event that we're running. So that's nice as well. Whereas in Facebook, it's all or nothing, right? It's either it's a private lockdown group and everyone in the group sees everything, or it's open to everyone and then everyone sees everything. So again, a lot more control around what you're creating and kind of how many spaces and what that experience looks like.
And well, let's face it, Facebook does not have the user base that it used to, or the active user base. Like you said, there are people who are well, I don't use Facebook anymore, or I never did, or
I never did. I
chose not to. Yeah. And so it just makes sense to have other alternatives. So if you've already got people on Discord and you've already had them on Facebook, but there's something new that comes along, I'm sure somebody said, you should have a Discord. And you thought, I don't know. And then you looked into it. But how do you vet other venues or platforms for community?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know if I have an amazing answer for it. When we knew that we had an issue only being on Facebook because we were getting a lot of feedback that said exactly what we just said. What about me? I don't like Facebook, or I'm not on Facebook. And we knew that Facebook, we didn't own that space. So we knew that it was going to be a problem at some point. So we needed another tool. I probably vetted, I want to say 3 or 4 other tools, both paid and free options. And for me, I felt like Discord was the easiest and lowest lift. Like there were other tools that had a lot of really cool features.
What
but
were some of the other tools? I think probably Mighty Networks may have been
Mighty
one
Networks,
of them.
yeah. Circle
Slack,
was another one.
Circle, even.
Slack. We use Slack personally, like for our internal communications, both with our like our internal team as well as influencers like you, Erik. So we use Slack all the time, but Slack felt a little bit too restricted, I guess. We have over 20,000 people that are sitting in our Facebook group. So, we needed something that was going to allow a lot of people, feel really inclusive, be accessible to everyone, be available both, on your phone as well as on desktop, be easy to use. There were just a lot of factors that went into it. And then cost, how much do we want to spend? Do we want, like, if we pay for a tool, we don't want our customers to have to pay. We're not building a membership, right? We're different than this is a value add to our existing customers. So I wanted to be really sensitive to that as well. So there was a lot of vetting. For now, I think Discord is the one that makes the most amount of sense to us. I have no immediate plans to move or like force all of our Facebook people over. Like our Facebook group, people that use that are really happy with it. And it's a different intention. Like when you're on Facebook and you're scrolling through, you might see some questions come up in our community and you might answer and engage that way. Whereas Discord, you have to go to Discord with intention, right? You have to open it up. You're like, okay, now I'm going to spend time with Ecamm fam. So it's just a different experience as well. So it's not easy. It takes a lot of research and kind of keeping a really close ear on what people are saying and what their experience has been with the platforms and what they're looking for or asking for and where their pain points are.
Couple different things you said that made me really think, ooh, we got to dive into a couple of those things right now. One is you said you're not doing a membership. It's not paid.
Yeah.
This is free. This is value and safe space created for free for people that use Ecamm. And I think that's amazing. Let's talk a little bit about the initiative that you've done recently. You just did it for the very first time, and it was the Creator Camp.
Yeah,
I'm very excited. I mean, I hope to be there next year or this year, actually, when it happens. I think it's a great opportunity. But you and I were talking privately offline about some of that and what that entailed. And of course, I know people that went. Talk a little bit about what it is and then the why behind it and then how it came off, because honestly, it was impressive.
Well, thank you. So we've been to a lot of events as a company. So we've both just attended, we've spoken at, we've sponsored, we've had booths. And and it's always just been this really great experience from a branding perspective, as well as the opportunity again to meet with with the Ecamm fam in real life, right? So people who, live in that area or who are attending the event, they would come out. And so, after the first few times we went, we're like, oh, well, we should do a meetup alongside these events because everyone's in town and, local people can come in. And so the meetups just kind of kept getting bigger. And then, and as the meetups are getting bigger, people were like, well, we'd love for you to let us know, what the roadmap for the software is. And some of your influencers are coming, maybe they could host a little session. And it quickly turned from meetup into we were effectively running mini workshop days / meetups. So there was obviously a need or a desire from our customers to just get to spend time together, learn from each other and have fun. And I feel like time and time again, I hear every time I'm at events that, hallway track is everyone's favorite, right? Spending time with each other, meeting up together, sharing meals together. That's so impactful for people, particularly people who are solopreneurs or entrepreneurs, or they work predominantly at home or in small offices by themselves. They don't get that connection and community anywhere else other than in a Discord or a Facebook group or coming out to these events. So Creator Camp was really born out of that. We really wanted to make this event that was entirely for our customers, entirely for the Ecamm fam. We wanted to pull together every level, people who are brand new and people who are super influential and have huge, YouTube channels and businesses. And it was tricky because we had to convince people who are used to being invited as speakers and they're used to being the big, huge names. We're like, we don't want you to speak. And they're like, why not? We really want you to just spend time with people from all these different levels and just and be present in that moment, because there are things that you're going to learn as someone who's had tons of experience from people who are just starting out. And what you can offer to the people who are just starting out is also huge. So we tried to structure it in this way that really forced people to get to know others from all different levels and backgrounds. And we ran that it's entirely camp themed. So we had camp counselors and we had workshop leaders, and we ran them through a series of 5 hands-on workshops in different locations. They had to go with their camp counselor and their cabin from one space to the other. And then at the end, they had to kind of present what they had learned. So it was a really wonderful experience. It was so fun. It really came together much better than I could have hoped or imagined. And we're really excited to do it again this year. So it was great. It's kind of like half influencer retreat, half conference, and then just half like the community itself just being in real life together. It's like taking everything we love in our community space and just like putting it in person in an event.
I love that you said the hallway track for a conference, because that's what it seemed like to me from the outside. I wasn't there, but I knew a few of the people who were counselors that were there, and they conveyed that vibe was what they were surprised and amazed by. Was you would think that, air quotes, influencers is the word we're used to hearing so much. And we think they're an influencer. So because they have that influence, that means they're untouchable, or the access isn't there. But it was actually, in fact, the opposite. And in a lot of ways, it was this really cool, like, give and take of lessons learned. Like, I mean, again, I know a few of the influencers that were there as counselors, and they came away with lessons. And I got to hear that. And it just kind of astounds me. I just don't think that business owners consider how powerful the connections that they can make with their business and facilitating a community around their business can make, how powerful that is.
Yeah. And I should say, I mean, obviously we're talking about the experiences at Ecamm, but there are lots of businesses that do this really effectively. Like there was a sort of a roadmap for me to look at where companies they go on, some of them even go on like mini road shows, across the country, and they do these events in key cities where they just give of themselves and open themselves up to their customers to hear feedback and to talk about what people are seeing out in the space and what trends and what their challenges are, and and how collaboratively everyone can make improvements to be able to do all this better. So I think it's hugely important, and for us, it was a really great use of our budget. It did more. I think that event did more for us than probably a lot of our advertising spend or a lot of the other kind of traditional marketing channels, because we came off that event and everyone that was there went back and were like, this was incredible. This was life-changing. We got so many phone calls and emails and kind of messages afterwards from people who wanted to know like what they had missed, or were just like wanted to be connected with with people so they could continue those conversations. There was a lot of just like branding and Ecamm love that kind of came out of that. So I think it was well worth the investment, and certainly well worth the time, and something we hope to continue annually for as long as people will let us.
I think that was the other aspect I wanted to touch on, was the financial aspect, that I knew this wasn't about you making money off of this, and your community's not about you making money off of them. You can't buy that kind of goodwill. I mean, you can pay for that you can try to pay for that kind of goodwill. You can try, but I don't think you're going to get as much back as you would doing what you're doing, building actual community. And again, this is just one example. This whole conversation is just a deep dive. It's almost like a case study in some senses for future businesses and business owners that are building them now. I should be thinking about community from day one, all along the way as I'm building my thing, because the people that are going to be part of it, whether it's Ecamm's a small team. It's not a huge thing. It's small, but it's lean and limber and flexible. And again, the power is in the community and how much you're putting into it.
Yeah. And the word of mouth marketing is so hugely important. As you said, like we're a team of 9, but we have thousands and thousands of customers, and they're out there all the time telling everyone how much they love our software. They love our events. They love the trainings that we do. Like they are ride or die. And to have that kind of force behind you as a business, I mean, I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've had conversations with all sorts of people who have been like, how many people work at your company? And I'm like, 9. And they're like, 9. How are you doing this? And I'm like, we're doing this because we empower our customers, and we continue to support them and grow. When they win, we win. Like if they're making more video and they're out there and it looks awesome, everyone watching that video is like, how are you doing that? And they're like, it's Ecamm. And it just continues, along that path. So for us, and this is not the same for every kind of business, but for us, the more we can train our customers to be their very best, the more they bring us with them along that journey and introduce us to everyone that they meet. So I think it's worked really, really well for our business. And it just has made it so much more engaging and interesting and fun to be in the marketing team as a result. None of it feels like work because it's just always different and interesting. And we get to meet and spend time with so many different kinds of people. It's just been great.
For business owners out there that are curious, okay, I either already have a business, but I haven't thought about building a community, or they're in the beginning stages of building a community. You've probably had people like this. I mean, you were just kind of talking about this, where people are like, how are you doing that? How do you guide somebody who hasn't gotten started or wants to kickstart a community around their business?
It takes time, is the reality of it. And you need to figure out, you won't be able to do everything, right? So what is the best fit for you, and where are your customers wanting to spend their time? So again, for us, even though have never been a huge Facebook fan, our customers were on Facebook. They were using our tool originally to stream to Facebook. And so we just put ourselves in the same space as our customers and made ourselves available. And that is a great starting point for any business. So if you are, no matter what kind of business you are, I mean, we have a mutual acquaintance, Roger Wakefield, who started off as a plumber and now has this incredible media empire. But, he just started making himself available. He was answering questions about plumbing and creating, helpful content and solving problems. If you're there to solve someone's problem and you're there to give them quick help and an answer that they need, that's huge. They're not waiting on the phone endlessly. They're able to connect directly with you. And I feel like video gives a ton of opportunity for that. I would say just start being more accessible, whatever that, means for you or how that works in your schedule, or that's you or someone on your team. But the more accessible you are to your customers and the places where they spend their time, the more you're just going to start building momentum and being able to build towards a community space. It takes time and effort and a lot of listening, but it's definitely worth the journey.
Slow and steady, one connection at a time is what I'm hearing. Allowing access to yourself as little as you think you can give at the front end. And then, of course, like you said, you've got all these different moderators. They will reveal themselves.
I was going to say, and until they do, it's totally fine to ask for help from, I think initially it was we had friends just jumping on, and, the first few live streams, it was well, no one's going to show up. It's okay, well, let's just ask a couple of our friends to sit in the chat so that there's people there and it looks interesting and engaging. Cheat at it a little bit when you're first starting, feed that audience and get a couple faces. It builds your confidence and gives you, a little bit of ease as you're rolling into it. But it also kind of builds that excitement and gets it started. So it takes time, but it's definitely a fun experience.
Yeah, it's great. Katie, it's been awesome talking with you again, as usual. I would love to point people to where they can find out more, one, about Ecamm, and two, about all that you're doing, not necessarily the private stuff, but the public stuff, podcasting, and you've got multiple podcasts actually. So that's really cool.
I do. So you can find Ecamm, ECAMM, on all the social channels. If you go ecamm.tv/community, that'll drop you into our Facebook group. /Discord will send you into our Discord. You don't have to be an Ecamm customer to join us in that space. So if you're like, what is this? You can definitely come and lurk for a little bit and
take a peek, see what it looks like from the inside. Even no one's going to pressure you. No one's going to try and sell you anything. You're a tourist.
Come be a tourist and hang out. I love that. As you said, we do for Ecamm, we have a video podcast all about video podcasting, how to get up and running in the world of video. That's called The Flow. And we record live on YouTube every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. And then I do for fun, actually, it's tonight, Thursdays. I do Thursday nights, my own movie reviews from the 90s. So if you want to live entirely in the past and rewatch movies you've likely already seen, you can join us 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. We're called the VHS Club. Just a fun way to kind of keep practicing and keep getting a little bit better at this whole video and podcasting thing.
Yeah, I want to call that out real quick and say, I think that one of the things that we get so wrapped up in as business people is we do all these things for work, air quote work, but then we forget how fun and enjoyable it is. And it's nice to have the side projects that are fun, but still using those tools and allows us to geek out and do that kind of thing. So I'm glad that you do that like I do and other people I know do. So
it's a great way to practice. And it feels, again, like I know we've been saying safe space over and over again, but it feels like the place where if I screw everything up and everything goes horribly wrong, it's fine. And then I've learned that lesson in a place where it doesn't matter as much as, when I'm trying to run a huge virtual event or joining, a really important customer for a conversation. So I think it's nice to have places where you can play and practice and be able to learn, where the challenges are still there, but the fear isn't there as much, because if it goes wrong, it's fine. It'll be fine.
Yes, it'll be fine. Awesome. Katie, thank you so much for sharing with your experience. And I know that just people are going to be like, I've never thought about this, but now I am, and I'm digging in deeper. And I hope people take away a great kind of case study as to what's possible when it comes to community and their business. So thank you for being here and thanks for sharing.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Man, was that awesome or what? I love what Katie's doing over at Ecamm. Take a moment and think about that power of community that she conveyed. She's showing you that when we come together to share our experiences, our knowledge, our support, your business can thrive. It's like creating a family. And that's why they call it the Ecamm fam. It's that kind of connection that goes beyond any kind of software or product. It's about fostering that environment, that safe space, as she called it, where every member learns and grows and achieves their goals. And yeah, there's goodwill that comes along with that. And yes, sales too, but it's about really making a better place and a better world. And yes, then you can also make money and profit from that as well. Take the momentum that you're coming off of this conversation with and pull it into starting to think about whether you have an existing community, what you can be doing to be part of that more, ways that you can foster it and steer it and guide and be part of that and engage with it. Or think about the possibility, if you haven't yet started your business or you haven't yet started a community with your business, what first steps you can take to do that. You can create your own campfire, your own party, whether that's virtual or it's in person. You can invite those people along with you on a journey of learning and growing together. I hope that you can see that. I hope that you can see that this is a possibility and that a thriving community can really help support you and your business and give you crucial feedback that honestly, you're just not going to get anywhere through customer service surveys. Make sure to check out Ecamm on all their social channels and see what they're doing and how they're doing it for yourself. And until next time, class dismissed.